welcome back to another episode of the One Tree Hill Rewatch here on the Filmaholic channel, and we are starting Season 7 of One Tree Hill. We're on to that final stretch here of the final 3 seasons, which it's kind of like a trilogy of seasons on its own. I kind of look at it that way because it's a continuation of the series, obviously, but Lucas and Peyton are gone, and it kind of just starts a whole new chapter in these characters' lives. So the episode is 701, and the episode's titled 4:30 a.m. Apparently they were traveling abroad. Now, this title, obviously all the titles are named after songs. The 4:30 a.m. thing goes to the scene at the end of the episode where Nathan comes out and talks to Clay and says, "Hey man, it's 4:30 in the morning. What are you doing?" But apparently they were traveling abroad. References Lucas and Peyton. They are gone now. And we don't really know what they're doing other than they left Tree Hill. But the assumption is that they are with Karen and Andy, probably traveling abroad, or in New Zealand, wherever they are. They're not in Tree Hill anymore. The episode was directed by Clark Mathis and written by Mark Schwann. Obviously, it's going to be written by Mark Schwann. It's the beginning of a season. It introduces new characters that are regulars and are going to be the main characters for the rest of the series. A lot of big events that are set up in this episode and a lot of big storylines. It's very, very strange to me that it was written by Clark Mathis. And I'm looking ahead just a little bit here. Greg Prange does not direct an episode of Season 7 until the 4th episode. And that's very strange. I don't know why Greg didn't direct the first episode of Season 7. He directs all the big episodes, so... And 704 is like, even if he hadn't directed the first one, I thought he would have directed the second and third one. I don't know why. It's just weird. I don't know if he was randomly assigned that or what. But Clark Mathis directed it. Episode starts right off the bat with Dan, which I like. Dan opens and closes this episode. He does a voiceover, which the first half of Season 7, in a way, they kind of switch it from Lucas, who's the narrator, the first 6 seasons, to Dan being the narrator in Season 7, or at least the first half, and then when we get to Season 8, it'll be Haley. But that happens. It's 14 months later. Haley is now running Red Bedroom Records, now that Peyton's gone, which I have a pretty big problem with this, because it's Peyton's whole character arc, opening this record label, owning this. And I couldn't remember from watching it the first time if she was any kind of part of the record label after this, if she still owned it but just wasn't there, or what the situation was. But apparently she doesn't, because they do mention that they lost Peyton to the fact that she had a kid, right? So she has nothing to do with the label anymore, even though it's named after her bedroom and all that different stuff. She's gone. No connection anymore. Haley's running the label. Also, while trying to record her new album, which they end up sending Miranda Stone, which is another character that works for the label, to close the record label down. And then we'll get to that in the next episode when we talk about how she's trying to close it down and what Haley does to prevent that. But I do want to mention that Miranda Stone is one of the more interesting new characters they introduced, even though they don't really do anything with her character other than set up this relationship with Grubbs. And then they write both of them off. You're kind of hinted that Dan has a show at the beginning when he does the voiceover, and he says that was 14 months ago. You're like, what is this? We don't really know. But then it's revealed at the end of the episode that he does have a TV show, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But Nathan, obviously in the NBA, we see him training. We see the opening is Haley recording a new song, and then flashes of what's going on with other people with Nathan. We're introduced to Clay and a whole scene of him as a sports agent doing his job, and we're getting a little introduction to his character. And we also see Quinn taking photos, which is an introduction to her character because she is a photographer. Right off the bat, Quinn's boring. I'm sorry. I like the actress, and I like Clay and Quinn together, as their relationship on the show is nice, but her as an individual character is very weak. Never really has a distinct storyline, other than the only really storyline that she has is when she's introduced here, and that's the fact that she wants to leave her husband. Okay, it is boring. We just see her talking about it for 3 episodes straight before he even comes into the picture in the end of the 3rd episode, and then we get to see their reaction and their relationship before she parts ways with him and ends up with Clay, and then nothing really. I mean, unless I'm forgetting something. I know that like in season 8 she has the ridiculous storyline with Katie, but that's even a spinoff of Clay's storyline. Never really, to me, a fleshed out individual character on her own. Definitely the weakest character of the regulars, hands down. Just not a fan of that. Jamie's 7th birthday, that's the backdrop of this episode, and all of the characters are together. Brooke and Julian, setting up the marriage stuff with them. That she wrote that in the sand, which is going to continue throughout the rest of this season of their marriage storyline. That'll conclude in the finale when we get there. There's reintroduction of Millie in this episode, who's in New York, and it's a parallel from Brooke's introduction in season 5, so we're kind of setting this up to be this new version of Millicent, which I'm not a huge... I don't mind her in these first few episodes, but her storyline in season 7, I'm not a fan of, and her friendship with Alex once she's introduced. There's also Mouth and Skills, and the Mouth wants him to move out of the apartment so that he can have the apartment to just him and Millie. That's set up. That's going to be I think three episode little arc there between the two of them. We see the new Naley house too, which I've also went on the set of, and that was cool. I went on to the set of both of Nathan and Haley's house, the one in season 5 and 6, and the one in 7, 8, 9. When I went on the set of this one, it was actually when they were filming season 9. But that was cool. And Jamie, he opens his birthday presents, and Lucas did send him a birthday present, and it was Lucas's old basketball. So we see that, and Jamie and Nathan go to the river court, and they have a good scene there with the basketball, and Jamie asking about Lucas and his heart condition, because he's asking, did Lucas play basketball, and was he a good player, and why did he quit? And then Dan's mentioned too, because Nathan's like, it was like Dan's heart condition, and Jamie says, I miss him. But he's talking about Dan, but he's afraid to say that in front of Nathan, so he quickly switches it to say that he meant Lucas. But Nathan pretty much knows what he's talking about, what he means, because I think that's mentioned a little bit later. Well, it is mentioned at the end of the episode, which I'll go ahead and talk about, which is my favorite scene in this episode. Once again, lays out the groundwork of this is what the story they're telling, this is what direction they're going, and that's when Jamie is being tucked into bed by Nathan at the end of the episode, and they're talking about a birthday he had with Dan, and Dan, it wasn't good, and Jamie said, did you ever forgive him? And Nathan says, I don't think I ever did. And Jamie's like, I think you can. You're Nathan Scott. You can forgive him. And that sets up what we're going to get throughout the rest of the series until season 9 of him being able to forgive Dan. And then as Nathan leaves the room, Jamie takes the remote and turns on the TV and starts watching Dan's show. And that's when we're confirmed that it is a show. Jamie was talking about Dan, and that he still misses Dan and watches him on TV, and is glad that he gets to see him in his life somehow. And I love that they have more scenes when Dan returns to Tree Hill in the future moments. The last thing I'll talk about in this episode is that the Renee stuff starts. We see her a little bit earlier in the episode. She trespassed and came to Jamie's birthday party, and then takes a picture with Nathan. Nathan's asked to take a lot of photo. He's a professional basketball player, and Clay brings Nathan the image at the end of them together, and says, she says that she slept with you on the road. She's going public, and that's the cliffhanger of the first episode of season 7, which was a solid season opener for me. Not my favorite of the season openers. But not the worst either. Not the worst. All right, guys. Next episode, we'll be talking about the second episode of season 7. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time.